welcome back to Beyond the Belts episode 5. In this video, I want to go over the two primary Atlas strategies that I've been farming these last couple of episodes to make about 200 plus div. Maybe a little bit more if Wealthy Exile is actually to be believed. Because if I go ahead and I pull this over for you real quick, it says 367 div, and it's just looking at the Beyond the Belt tabs, right? So, well, I mean, I guess we can take off the headhunter. So 310 div. Still different from the amount of money I feel like I've made, but sure, we're going to just say 200 div, right? The strategies that I use to make at least 200 div. Because in the last video, it was purely crafting, and then I just zoned out and blasted a lot of maps and a lot of scuba, right? So essentially, the strategy that I ran was map farming, right? Old, tried and true, sell the shovel type strategy. Because people are going to need 8 modded maps, right? People are going to use the invitations. People are going to do the nightmare maps. So nightmare maps sell between 35 and 40 C. Then you have invitations that sell for about 130 C. Then you have 8 modded T16.5 maps that sell from anywhere between 35C and like a div and a half, right? Here's one for 150. Here's one. Oh, wait, no, that was that. Here's one for 100. And then as we go down, here's one for a div, right? So like 200C. Here's one for 100C, 135. And that's essentially all I did is in my maps, I farmed 8 modded corrupted maps and Calgarian ore. Because while I was farming this, tattoos and runes still had a really good value. Right now, I don't know if any of these are still... okay. They've retained their value, I hope. Let me go over to PoE Ninja. Because essentially, every rune was at least 30C. And with the lost shipments, you have a fairly decent chance of getting runes or the decent tattoos, right? So I was farming 8 modded maps and Calgarian ore because today I'm going to actually be sending out a 25 mil shipment to see what kind of rewards I can get back from that. So farming the Calgarian ore, the Eater altars, and farming 8 modded maps. That is the entire strategy, right? The scarabs that I was using are a cartography scarab of the multitude, carto scarab of escalation, carto scarab of corruption, and then 2 Calgarian scarabs. Now, in the Atlas, we do have bismuth infusion. So with so many ores in the map, it almost guarantees that you get a bismuth ore, which essentially gives all the existing mobs like an additional modifier, right? Oh, it literally says that as an additional modifier to monsters they affect, right? So really, really good just for extra loot and drops. Apart from that, we were grabbing some scrying orbs from cemetery when we felt like it. Otherwise, we were farming Jungle Valley, and we have the fortunate scryed onto Jungle Valley. You can pick up this Dune scrying orb for like 5C or something, so you might as well do it. Put it on whatever map you're running, unless the map you're running already has a decent div card. Apart from that, the second strategy that I was running was more investment. And this is where we fully went into 8 mod map farming, right? I went ahead and I dropped all of the Calgarian ore nodes, and I picked up all of the increased chance of map nodes and all the explicit and extra mobs that I could grab. Because these nodes over here give you 10% increased rares, right? And then we have the quantity, and then these give us pack size, and this adds 10% more monster packs. So the more packs we have, the more packs that we get, right? And then for that strategy, I was using an influencing scarab of the hordes, a scarab of monstrous lineage, Cardo Scarab of Escalation, Cardo Scarab of Corruption, and a Cardo Scarab of Multitude. You can play around with these Atlas trees and these scarabs and edit them however you like, right? This is more of a guideline instead of an exact follow this one to one. I'm trying to move away from those type of videos because I feel like one of the best things about PoE is the creativity that players can have. So instead of just putting out guides of follow this one to one, look for these exact modifiers, I'm hoping to give the broad idea of this is something I farmed and had relatively good returns. You can also try it, right? But then this was also higher investment. We were using Templar astrolobes, and honestly, there's no reason to really ever not use an astrolabe. I went through, I have a small sample size, right? I've gone through probably 15. Um, and they've all returned at least 60% of the value, right? Now, I may be getting extremely lucky, but like on average, you're going to at least break even. And it gives you so many additional modifiers on your maps that it's just so much free juice. It makes no sense not to use an astrolabe, especially when it is only 5 Atlas points to make it so you can still only run your one map, right? So those are the two Atlas strategies that I was running. And then every time my chart storage would fill up, which actually would happen regularly because you are getting on average 2 charts per map, right? Um, so, well, not fill up completely, but each of these having at least one stash tab full of maps, full of charts, right? And that's essentially because all flame sulfur is insanely expensive. It's like 135 to 1 on the trade house, meaning that every chart that you run, even in the strategy that I was showing you where we just go, you make an insane amount of currency. I'd say on average, chart and go is 25, 30 plus div an hour, depending on how lucky you get. Because you have to run all of your charts, but then you run all of your voyages. So charts kind of innately double dip. On top of that, they buffed them yesterday, making it so the altars that converted currencies convert currencies at a much higher rate. The altars are just a little bit rarer. Um, I ran, I want to say, 7 grand voyages last night, and I found the altars like 4 times. So it's like roughly a 50% rate. I don't know if there is a way to, or a zone that can deterministically spawn them. I might test that out later, buy some charts specifically for that. But yeah, that's essentially the core of what I did. I ran and I farmed a bunch of 8 modded maps for these future strategies that I'm going to be running, and then as well as to feed my March mappers. And then in between that, I just ran the league mechanic and sold the sulfur. The like I said, the league mechanic is just ridiculous. It has to be one of the best currency making strategies this league. I know ground loot is kind of terrible, and the mechanic is majorly tile loot because it's the sunken treasures that you're opening, right? The strong boxes, stuff like that. So ground loot is still kind of bad, but it is really good right now. That being said, the prices are just going to continue to go up. But yeah, I just wanted to start this video with that because the next part is a little bit of crafting. I want to make the updates to my boots. I want to edit the skill tree, get rid of I want to go ahead and make my new boots so I can get rid of these 3 points. I'm planning on putting another cluster over here. It's essentially going to be this exact same cluster, but it is going to give us a lot of damage and an additional projectile, right? But yeah, without that being said, let's get into it and start looking at crafting boots. Before I forget, I wanted to go over the 2 new upgrades to the character. So, firstly, we replaced our amulet with a yoke of suffering because this allows us to get enemies take 50% increased damage because they are ignited, they are shocked, they are chilled, they are bleeding, and they are poisoned. It's why we don't have 100% conversion on our gloves, right? We need a little bit of physical damage to be able to apply. I'm leaving that in. Bleed and poison. And how we're managing to get them is just tattoos, right? 5% poison, 5% bleed, but when you hit as many times as a lightning strike and Vol lightning strike, this might as well say 100%. Apart from that, last night I finally did hit a claw that had the 3 prefixes once again. We made it to the step where we were forging for attack speed. And you just block prefixes with prefixes can't be changed and reforge attack speed with the Hordy bench until you hit T1 or T2. I hit T1 and then I went over to All Flame. I was trying to fracture the 27% attack speed. That did not happen. Um, so essentially, we went for the next best thing of just slamming it. We slammed it with a Exalted Orb. We got extremely lucky because the intangibility made it so we only got 1 outcome back, and that 1 outcome had the T2 crit chance. And then I just put a little bit of crit multi in there. I don't have double damage on the claw because we already have double damage from our Timeless Jewel, right? I have double damage from my Timeless Jewel in 2 spots, actually. And I don't believe it stacks in any way. I don't think it makes me have like a 15% chance. I think it's 3 individual rolls of 5, which overall isn't that good. But essentially, for the claw crafting process, in case you're unaware, is you pick up a bunch of bases and then you turn them into magic items and you transmute them with a regix that you can get off poe.re and you wait until they highlight, right? This does actually take a lot of alterations. I want to say I probably went through 3 to 5,000 alterations before I was able to get the claw done. But we're not going to continue because we're getting super unlucky. Once you get a claw with one of the modifiers, you would take it and slam it with another element. So if you get cold, slam it with fire or lightning, right? And then that would give you claws that actually look like this. And I'm going to do this a couple of times to show you. Potentially we could get another 3 stat from this. So you take these over to your Recombinator, and like I said, you take the 1 stats and you slam them together until you get 2 stats, and then you take two stats of differing elements, right? So make sure one of them has lightning, and we'll make sure that it has all three elements total. And then you are just going to combine the two stats. Majority, oh hey, we hit. Nice. Majority of the time, that is not going to happen, and you're not going to hit all three. But you still, here, let's do another one. You still will end up with a two stat claw. That it worked two times out of two times. Okay, so that was that was a terrible example. You know what? Okay, let's just show you the rest of the craft since we're already at this stage and we have two claws. So we're going to take this claw, right? And then we would go prefixes cannot be changed. You go over to the crafting bench and you reforge speed. The only modifier it can apply onto it is attack speed, right? So we'll do this. We have the currency, so we'll do this until we get like T2, right? So we got T2 and then we got T4 crit chance. So that kind of pseudo finished itself, actually. I mean, T4 crit chance isn't the best, but essentially that's what you would do. And then you would come here and you would put whatever suffix you want, right? I don't even know what I would put. You know what? We'll leave it as no. We'll just put multi on it, right? We shall just give this some crit strike multi. And that's essentially the process that I did. But it was a lot longer and a lot more asinine when I actually did it. That's kind of funny. Wonder how much I can actually sell this for. Let's go 850, 750. And let's look at these claws real quick, actually. Just looking. Because, hey, we may have just made another claw super quick that I can actually sell for some profit, right? But that's essentially the process. I wanted to take this time to learn recombination crafting, just because of the fact that whatchamacallit, just because of the fact that it's super helpful early league and I've never done it. So I wanted to go ahead and take the time to actually learn it, and it's pretty strong. I can see why people have a problem with it. I'm gonna try selling this for like, I don't know, 18 div, right? A nice, let's do 19, a nice middle ground. But yeah, that's how you craft the claw. Okay, so I actually just saw the length of this video, and that is going to be it, I guess. I don't want these videos to go over 20 minutes, right? So, I mean, I did go over the currency making strategies I used to make the 150, 200 dev, right? And I showed you how to craft the claw. So we did accomplish stuff, just not what I wanted to. In the next video, if this claw sells, then I'll start crafting the boots. I think I'm going to buy the cluster right now, but these are the boots that we're looking for, right? And I just know they're going to take a lot of my currency to make. So I think I think I'm going to have to use bestiary for this. I think I'm going to have to get the two awakened bases for Onslaught and Tailwind, slam them together with bestiary imprints until I get T1 or T2 spell suppression, however long that takes. That might be insanely expensive, so I'm not looking forward to that at all. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay up to date with this and future content. And until next time, take care.